There's a time and a place for everything. It's called college. Welcome back, my hardworking peers, to Surviving College 101. With me, your host, Allison B. We've been talking a lot about these past several weeks. We've ranged from how to eat healthy, studying and sleeping habits, sober driving options like Ubers and taxis, and forming relationships with peers and professors. On this episode of Surviving College 101, we're going to get a little more serious. As many of you know, college is not cheap. Food, books, clothing, and many other important factors that we now have to pay for on our own can really take a toll on our bank accounts. This week, we're going to be talking about how and what to consider while looking for a part-time job while in school. College is a lot different than high school. The main difference, in my eyes personally, is the amount of responsibilities. Nobody's going to call your mom if you ditch class, and nobody's going to force you to take courses for 7 hours a day. Working part-time while being a college student is just another solo responsibility that you'll have to take on willingly to keep up on financial burdens. There are a few things to consider when choosing to take on a job while being a college student, and today, that's what we're going to talk about. First is your means of transportation. It's important to realize that not everything is walking distance away from campus. Being from Colorado, this was a huge factor for me in my job search when I was a freshman in school. I wanted to work at many different places in the mall or large shopping areas, but having a beat-up hand-me-down car, I didn't trust my means of transportation while it was snowing. So, I reconsidered my options and picked a restaurant that was so much closer to campus and way more convenient for me to access from my dormitory. P.S. For those of you listeners who aren't going to college in Colorado, it snows for about 70% of the school year. Anyway, reliable means of transportation is important to consider when looking for a job. Do you have a car? Is it reliable? Have you exhausted the opportunities for an on-campus job? Do you know how much gas will cost driving to work every week? And can you afford it? All of these questions and many more are important to consider when thinking about the distance of your ideal workplace, as well as if you'll be able to safely and successfully get there whenever your work shift begins. The next concept to consider when thinking about working part-time while going to school is your time management skills. Time management is a huge part of our college experience. Working part-time on top of managing studying, social lives, eating and working out schedules, and of course, sleeping, is just another factor to balance out in our already overwhelming schedules. When looking for a part-time job, many places either want their employees to be available during the days or the nights, weekends, or the weekdays. Make sure to do some research before promising to be able to work 25 hours during the school week. If you've practiced this kind of time management before, cut yourself some slack. You know that you'll be able to do it successfully. For those of you, myself previously included back in the day, who aren't sure if you can survive college plus work part-time all within a stressful school week, consider a part-time job that just doesn't look for workers here and there, or a job that doesn't require many hours, but essentially has a set schedule that's easy for you. Since I wasn't sure how well I was going to balance my time, I chose the career of being a waitress. This allows me to make a good amount of money on the crazy weekend shifts when I don't have school, as well as let me pick up some serving shifts here and there whenever I felt comfortable within the amount of time I had to dedicate to my schoolwork and sleep. Time management, in this example, was on my side because I focused on my studies first and then chose a part-time job that was flexible, gave me a chance to make some quick cash in a decent night shift, and allowed me to change my hours and help decide which shifts were best for me during the stressful school year. Serving is a popular part-time job choice of college students, so if you are considering this, make sure to get a jump ahead of those who are also applying and send your application in early. Working part-time as well as being a college student is not easy. I think people don't give enough credit to us and those who take on such an exhausting task. Although there are many other factors when deciding whether to work part-time while being a student or not, such as how much your rent is, bills, availability, location, and other things, working part-time is usually a good thing to do. It helps build up your resume, your work ethic, and your experience. And it also helps you feel more prepared for the adult world we'll all have to face after we graduate college ourselves, unfortunately. For me, working part-time while being a full-time student is now a necessity. As we come to a close, I'd like to thank you all for joining me in this episode of Surviving College 101. Feel free to tweet at me using my Twitter username, which can be found below in my bio below this link. Next week, we'll be discussing something that we all have the back on our minds: choosing our major. Is this the right one for us? Hope you all join me again next week, and remember, there's a time and a place for everything. It's called college.